Hello everyone and welcome to the UPSC Essentials of the Indian Express. I am Manas Srivastava. We were talking about union budget since the past two videos. We'll continue from where we left. Dear aspirants, union budget is very important not only from the perspective of prelims but also your mains. Again, not only from the perspective of economy but also when it talks about various schemes, policy, vision, so it becomes relevant for polity and other issues. It also acts as a fodder for your answers in your mains examination. Last, a little recap what we have done till now. In the very first video which talked about union budget, I briefly told you some of the basic features of the general budget. After which, I talked about the vision of the current budget and took you through the priorities, and we talked about two priorities in the very first video of the Saptarishi, 7 pillars. In the next video or the next live session where you all joined me to understand 3 priorities, the next 3 priorities, that is priority 3, 4, 5. Just a little reminder, we talked about Mishti and Mangrove and so forth. If you have not seen that videos, my advice is that after this video is over, since there is not much connection, you can go back to those videos, revisit them, review them, view them, solve certain questions which were asked in those videos, and also don't forget to read an UPSC Essential article which focuses on budget simplified for you, for your exams and for your selection. Now, we are going to take forward from where we left in the last video. We are going to talk about today is priority 6, priority 7. And by reaching the priority 7, we will be actually finishing the Saptarishi Mandal, or maybe the Saptarishi of the Amrit Kal, of the budget of the Amrit Kal, the first budget of the Amrit Kal. And then we are going to talk about the direct and indirect taxes. A little brief overview I'll give it to you so that you should have an idea that what the budget talked about. We'll resume with our practice which we were doing last time. I will be posing a MCQ, a question before each priority or before each subheading, so that when you visit those slides or visit those slides with me, you get an answer, and then finally you can answer that question in the end. So let's begin. Let's begin today with new energy, though we are trying to finish the budget part, but let's have new energy whenever we start a video, isn't it? So the priority 6 of the budget. But before that, as promised, a MCQ. Now I always encourage students and aspirants and viewers to know or to make a wild guess, because it's good to get your answers wrong here but not in final exams. And in the practice you learn the topic, okay, you know about the topic, you know about your mistakes. Now here is a question. The question is, if we focus on the screen, with reference to the union budget, consider the following statements. Number 1. Unity Mall will be set up in New Delhi to showcase India's unity in diversity. Statement 2. Under Vibrant Villages program, tourism infrastructure and amenities will be facilitated in border villages. These are the 2 statements. As mentioned earlier, this is a linked statements. These are linked statements to the priority which we are going to address next. So these are the 2 statements. Here are the options. My advice, my suggestions, my request to answer this question. So only one statement is correct. The question is asked around the correct statement. So only one is correct, only 2 is correct. C, both 1 and 2. D, neither 1 or 2. So it talks about Unity Mall. It talks about under Vibrant Villages program. So remember these words, because when we will do the slides, you will come across this. and then maybe you can answer it more properly. But make a wild guess. I can see a few of you are answering. Try to make a guess, and I'll be happy if it is correct. Let's come to the priority, and then we will answer your question. Priority 6. It's related to youth power. Remember, in the very first video of the Union Budget, when I was discussing, I said there is a focus on youth. Not me per se, but the budget said that there's a focus on youth. Okay, so this whole priority is related to youth. You will also see some elements of tourism, but right now we talk about youth. If you see the first point which is highlighted was also mentioned, if I'm not wrong, in the priorities or in the opportunities of what the budget seeks to, but we can always check that. So the first point here is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0. So this is the fourth version maybe, and it says that 30 Skill India centers, international centers, please mark this, it's 30 Skill India international centers will be set up across different states, and in the bracket I have written international opportunities. So this Skill India international centers at 30 locations will give opportunities to youth and these opportunities will be of international in nature. So, kind of developing the youth skilling them through these international centers, 30 in total. So you see, from skilling in our country, skilling something which is relevant to our country, making it or taking it to international standards, that is going to be the objective. Then the next point is Unified Skill India Digital Platform. So Unified Skill India Digital Platform. Again, digital, we have seen a lot of digital initiatives which the budget tells about, especially in the terms of agriculture when we were seeing in the first video. Here also skilling and digitization, digital and skilling, both are important, and there are three specific things which are mentioned for enabling demand-based formal skilling, linking with employers including MSMEs, and facilitating access to entrepreneurship schemes. Now you see, if you pay a little closer look, this talks about demand-based skilling, formal skilling. So it is not that just skilling in the air. Skilling as per the demand, specific, what is the requirement, how will it help? Okay, then we talked about this budget is talking about MSMEs in detail. So MSMEs, linking the employers including MSMEs, this is how the Skill India digital platform is going to operate. And finally, for the entrepreneurship schemes. So these are the 2 points here in the youth part. There's more, let's see what is there. National Apprenticeship Promotion Schemes. So to provide stipend support to 47 lakh youth in 3 years. So a lot of time, these internship, apprenticeship are without stipend, but the government is trying to have this national promotion scheme so that these 47 lakh youth get, in the time period of 3 years, get stipend. Now how is it going to be done? It's going to be done through direct benefit transfer under Pan India National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, which is planned. So this particular scheme is planned for the youth. So this comes under youth power. So remember, there will be definitely a question, or maybe in an essay or anywhere, which is related to youth. Because all of you are youth. You're going to appear in the civil services examination as a youth force, isn't it? So you should know what the government is planning to do for you. Then we have boosting tourism. Okay, so as I told you, this sector will cover the tourism also. At least 50 destinations will be selected through challenge mode and developed as complete package for domestic and foreign tourists. Remind me and correct me if I'm wrong. We mentioned tourism when we were talking about the vision and 4 transformative opportunities. We talked about tourism is something which the government is going to focus on. This is where we are clearly mentioning that in order to boost the tourism sector, because the country has a lot of potential there. There's going to be a lot of footfall from around the world, and as I mentioned earlier also, this is the year of G20. You will witness a lot of people coming. So not only for this year, for the upcoming years also, 50 destinations are going to be selected. Now there are two initiatives which are important. One of them I've mentioned in the MCQ. So as I said, note down those terms and those schemes so that you can answer your question correctly, and it will remain in your mind. This will help you in retention. One is Dekho Apna Desh initiative. Dekho Apna Desh. So sector-specific skilling on entrepreneurship development will be dovetailed to achieve the objectives of the Dekho Apna Desh initiative. Then we have Vibrant Village program. So under the Vibrant Village program, this was a part of the question. Tourism infrastructure and amenities will be facilitated in border villages. So, in the border areas where people think that it's not very safe or something. But this is an initiative which addresses, the tourism in particular, or the infrastructure in the border villages. So tourism infrastructure in the border villages, Vibrant Villages program. So these should be the words which ring your, in your head whenever you see such kind of questions around it. Dekho Apna Desh and Vibrant Village program. So I hope that now you're getting the answer of the MCQ which we posed to you. Now we will come back to that question once we finish this youth part. Setting up of Unity Mall. Okay, this is another. Now I remember the statement was that Unity Mall is something related to which will be set up in New Delhi, which will showcase unity in diversity. No ji, bilkul galat hai. The correct answer here is it will be in state capital or most prominent tourism center of the financial capital of states. So either it will be in the state capitals or the tourism centers or financial capital. So there will be a Unity Mall, and this Unity Mall revolves around for promotion and sale of their own ODOPs, that is one district, one product. Another important scheme, please make a note of it, GI products and other handicraft products. So it's not related to unity and diversity, but it is related to these ODOPs, that is one district, one product, GI products and handicraft products. So a Unity Mall, malls. So mall will be created where these kind of traditional things will be displayed, and this will be sold, promoted. So remember this, this is an interesting point, okay? And probably Unity Mall is something which is you can also mention in your essay or, in the culture part of your, where, how culture is being promoted in our country, an innovative method, Unity Mall. So all these points will remain in your mind when you are solving questions. So this is how you should deal with budget, not blank reading, but connecting the dots, making it more interesting in your studies. Next point here is, well, we come to the MCQ and now you get an answer. So with reference to the union budget, consider the following statement. This was the question. One was Unity Mall. Now if you see the question, it sounds like a halwa, or it's a very easy question. It says, Unity Mall will be set up in New Delhi to showcase India's unity in diversity. Bilkul galat, because now you know, not in only in New Delhi, but in state capitals, in tourism centers, in financial capitals, and not for unity in diversity, but ODOP products, for GI tag products, all these kind of things. Then under Vibrant Village program, tourism infrastructure and amenities will be facilitated in border villages. So this is correct. The correct answer here is B. Now you can clap for yourself if your answer was correct, and do mention to let me know if you think that your answer was correct. Maybe I missed it in the chats. That reminds me, you can keep posting your questions, your doubts, or maybe basic comments also sometimes you want to add on for the benefit of your own other peer group and other people on viewing this episode. Let's come to the next question before we go to priority 7. और हमारा तरीका वही है कि पहले question देख लेंगे, then we'll go to the priority, and then we'll judge whether our answer was correct or not. Easy way to revise. With reference to the union budget, consider the following statement. A. Data embassy will be set up for surveillance data related to cross-border crimes. Yes, cross-border crimes is an important issue. Let's see if the statement is correct or not. Second, a very factual statement, 50-year interest-free, condition-free loan to states for implementing Panchayat and Gram Sabha projects. Does the budget mention these two things? This is something which we have to watch. We have to see in our upcoming slides. By the way, if you know this answer, please be free to add brownie points for yourself. Only A, only 2, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Okay, so you can answer this. Even if you're making a wild guess, don't be ashamed of it. Make a wild guess. If you're wrong for the good. Okay, you'll be better next time, maybe in the final exam. Let's come to the priority 7, which is financial sector, and you will also get the answer of the MCQ. So please stay tuned and understand this. Financial sector. Okay, so budget basically talks about finance and indirectly through various priorities, directly through this sector. Credit guarantee for MSMEs. This will enable additional collateral-free guaranteed credit for rupees 2 lakh crore. Cost of credit will be reduced by 1%. So what you have to remember here is the focus on MSMEs. Maybe you can make a short note of what this budget talks about MSMEs. It talks about a lot of things. Okay, there's a bucket of things about MSMEs. This is again credit guarantee for MSMEs. Then you have, yes, this important point here is National Financial Information Registry. Now what it is, okay, so it will be set up to serve as the central repository of financial and ancillary information. This will facilitate efficient flow of credit, financial inclusion, it will promote and foster financial stability. So everything which you are going to deal here is going to talk about finance. Okay, so this is a financial sector. The first point was related to credit for MSMEs. You've seen cost of credit is reduced by 1%. This is an important line which can be asked in your prelims. It can be increased or reduced. Okay, so it may sound boring to you, but I am giving you a hint. So please mark it. It is a hint. This can be a question. It can be, instead of reduced, it can say increased. Okay, so make that note in your copies or in your notebooks. And the next is this National Financial Information Registry, which we have talked about. It is going to facilitate what? Efficient flow of credit, promote financial inclusion, and foster financial stability. Coming to the next point in the financial sector is financial sector regulations. Okay, so every time in the budget you will come across certain kind of regulations which the budget talks about. For example, here, financial sector regulators will be requested to carry out a comprehensive review of existing regulations to simplify, ease, and reduce the cost of compliance. Okay, so whenever you have these kind of things, you should just note that what is it aiming to do. Okay, so this is basically for financial sector regulators, and they will ease out the efforts for the financial inputs or the financial sector. Next point. Okay, this is interesting. Data embassy. Okay, this was the question. This was a part of a question. This was the statement in the question. Data embassy, and if I remember, we connected in that statement it to cross-border terrorism or cross-border crimes. It is totally opposite here. Data embassy for countries looking for digital continuity solutions. Okay, it is not related to crimes. Okay, it is related, it's a core financial instrument which is going to be planned. So for countries looking for digital continuity solutions. Now here, I want you all to comment in the box. I mentioned something called GIFT, G-I-F-T. Okay, so let me know if you know something about GIFT. I'm going to definitely answer. But what do you know about this GIFT? It was lot news, I think, from the past 2 years. So will facilitate setting up of data embassies. So that is why it is important. Who is going to facilitate data embassy? GIFT. And what is it meant for? For countries looking for digital continuity solution. So you get the aim and you get the institute or the institution which is going to do it. So it's an important point to remember in financial sector. Next, we are talking about is capacity building in security markets. So SEBI is in lot of news because of lot of things happening around. But what you have to remember that in this budget, SEBI is empowered. It's given more responsibility to develop, regulate, maintain, and enforce norms and standards for education in the National Institute of Security Markets. So it's going to be more educational institution, like educational responsibility is given to SEBI. Okay, so this is a point which you should know. Sometimes it may be asked like this. For example, they will ask you a MCQ on SEBI, and then they will give the various functions of SEBI. And in the original function of SEBI, this would be missing. Now you have to add this because the budget tells about it. The next is digital payment. So before going to digital payment, maybe you can just search about SEBI, write about the functions, the powers, the act, is it a constitutional body or it's not, it's a statutory body. Try to mention all those things in your notes. Add this point because this is the point which budget tells you. So maybe there will be an MCQ on SEBI with this point there. So you have to be very sure of it. Then digital payments, fiscal support for digital public infrastructure will continue in 2023-2024. This is not a very complex point, it's an easy point. And finally, before going ahead, we have a few more things in the financial sector. This is known as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Mahila Samman Bachat Patra. Okay, so if you see, this is a kind of a document, and this is a one-time new small saving scheme for women, for Mahila Samman saving certificate. So saving certificates for women will be made available for a 2-year period up to March 2025. So you should also know this from the perspective of general awareness. You have a lot of women around in your families, in your relatives. So not only from the perspective of exam, from the perspective of application. Okay, so this will offer deposit facility up to rupees 2 lakh in the name of women or girl for a period of 2 years at fixed interest rate of 7.5% with partial withdrawal option. So you can withdraw also. There is a partial option. Maybe sometimes it is needed for education or something in the midterm. You can withdraw. There's a partial option there. Now, why I'm stressing here is that you should know the beneficiary. Who is the beneficiary? You should know the rate. You should know the time. So these are the things which you should know about it. And believe me, questions around women are asked in your prelims and in your mains, especially when there is so much women-related issues which you will find in your current affairs. This is an attempt by the government. Then you have, when we talked about women, we will talk about senior citizens also. So the vulnerable section, the budget touches some aspects there. So benefits for senior citizen, the maximum deposit limit of senior citizen savings scheme will be enhanced from 15 lakh to 30 lakh. Now, why I am stressing this? Because the question can, a complex question is being formed. This is not a very popular thing, but the question can be formed. The paper is difficult, that it is enhanced. Is it the same or it has reduced? So by all logic, reduction to nahi hoga. So they will be enhanced. So this you have to remember, from 15 lakh to 30 lakh, there can be a maximum deposit limit which has been increased. The maximum deposit limit for monthly income account scheme will be enhanced from 4.5 lakh to 9 lakh for single account and 9 lakh to 15 lakh for a joint account. So there's something for women and then there's something for senior citizens as well. Let's come to the fiscal management. Now, this was a question. This was a statement in the MCQ. Please note, there was a slight clever thing which I included in it, and that is what UPSC also does in the question. Say, 50-year interest-free loan to states. Yes, this was mentioned in the statement. It has to be spent on capital expenditure within 2023-2024. And if I'm not wrong, we mentioned something other than capital expenditure. We mentioned, I think, about the women and other related vulnerable sector schemes. But it is capital expenditure जहाँ पे states को loan दिया जा रहा है 50 years के लिए, which is free loan, interest-free loan. But I also mentioned in the statement that it is a free conditional. That is, there is no condition. But that's wrong. Partly conditional. So the loan will be given for 50 years to the states for capital expenditure, which will be an interest-free loan, but partly conditional. So these three statements have a lot of things for one question. One question can be formed out of it for prelims. So note that. Then you have fiscal deficit of states. States will be allowed a fiscal deficit of 3.5% of GSTP, of which 0.5% will be tied to power sector reforms. So power sector reform is something which is very important. There have been, sometimes news of privatization. There have been debates about privatization of power sector. How does this budget relates to it? It clearly says that states will be allowed a fiscal deficit of 3.5% of GSTP, of which 0.5% will be tied to power sector reforms. So these are certain keywords which you should remember in your budget when you are looking at. So now let's come back to this MCQ, and now I think it will be too easy for you to answer because you've already seen these points. So with reference to the union budget, consider the following statement. The first statement was around data embassy will be set up for surveillance data related to cross-border crimes. Nahi ji, this is wrong. 50 years interest-free, condition-free loan to states for implementing Panchayat and Gram Sabha projects. No, that's not what we read. So now, instead of giving you a correct answer, can you tell me what is wrong in A statement and what is wrong in B statement? Please comment in the box below. And let's see. The correct answer is D. But what is data embassy actually related to? And what is 50 years interest-free, condition-free loan to states related to? I mean, I'm sure you know that what is wrong in it. So the correct answer here is that neither 1 nor 2 are correct. Both are wrong. But why they are wrong, that you have to comment in the box. If you have paid attention, you're definitely going to win this quiz. Now, coming to the last section of our discussion today, but before that, we will do a very slight MCQ. Now, this is something where students are a little scared. We're talking about taxes now, indirect, direct taxes, and so on and so forth. So, generally, people are interested in their own income tax, which is a very direct tax, and you are not able to understand how questions can be framed, all right, in the examination. Here what I have done, I've given you a little summary of what is important to know. Okay, definitely when you read indirect and direct taxes in your economy section, you have to go into depth. Okay, but for this budget per se, if you have the knowledge of these particular points, it's enough. But before going to that, this MCQ, and this MCQ will help you in understanding the topic which we are going to deal. So the rebate limit, the first statement is with reference to union budget. Consider the following statement. And the first statement is the rebate limit. The rebate limit in the new tax regime has been increased to rupees 5 lakh. Second statement, National Calamity Contingent Duty. This is NCCD. This is something which has been introduced in this, it's not introduced, but this is something which is mentioned in the budget. On specified cigarettes, revised upwards by 16%. So is it getting costlier or cheaper? That is what the statement says. Conversion of gold into electronic gold, receipt and vice versa will be treated as capital gains. So see these three statements, rebate limit, about cigarettes, and then about conversion of gold, which is going to be treated as capital gains or not. So these are the three statements. Now generally, if you have not read budget properly, you will leave this question, isn't it? But if you have, the basic points of the budget, you will be able to deal with it. It's a very easy question. Once we do a slide, you will get to know. Which of the statements are correct? Only 1, only 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3 only. So please make a wild guess. Let's say statement 2. Do you think it's correct or not? And then you can maybe figure out the option. So I've given you a very easy hint, and we'll move on to the direct and indirect taxes portion. Let's talk about direct taxes. Personal income tax, something which everybody wants to hear about, isn't it? This is how even the Honorable Finance Minister said before talking about it. So the rebate limit in the new tax regime has increased to 7 lakh. Okay, it has increased to, please note this figure. Now this amount is important, not only for your exams, but for also your, for your life, for maybe the lives of your parents and somebody who's earning. 7 lakhs, the new tax regime has been increased. It means that persons in the new tax regime with income up to rupees 7 lakh will not have to pay any tax. Okay, that is what it clearly mentions. The tax structure in the new personal tax regime has been changed by reducing the number of slabs to 5 and increasing the tax exemption to rupees 3 lakh. Now, from my point of view, these 3 points are exceptionally important. Okay, without going into the detail of the slabs and the changes, these are the key things which have happened in the personal income tax. Then there are certain standard deduction. The new tax regime has proposed to increase the standard deduction for salaried individuals to 50,000 rupees and the deduction for family pension up to 15,000 rupees. Then we talk about MSMEs. Now see, MSMEs have come like all over the budget. Okay, so here again, the limits of presumptive taxation have been increased for micro enterprises and certain professionals as long as the amount received in cash does not exceed 5% of the total gross receipts or turnover. So this is not a very important point for the exam point of view, but just to introduce you that in the MSMEs there have been certain tax reform. And then there is a deduction of payment made to MSMEs. So these are certain points related to MSMEs. Now remember, we were talking about in the very first, I think the first priority when we were talking about cooperatives, isn't it? So there are certain tax reforms in the cooperatives. Cooperatives is something where the government has stressed on. So new manufacturing cooperatives that start manufacturing before 31st March 2024, that is the next year, will have a lower tax rate of 15%. So this is something which you should keep in mind. Cooperatives is important for the exam point of view. I'm saying it again and again. The limit of cash deposits and loans by primary agriculture cooperative societies and primary cooperative agriculture and rural development banks have been increased. So even if you don't remember the figure, the number, please now remember increase or decrease. And everything is for good. So if it is decreasing, it's for good. If it's increasing, it's for good. So in that way also you can connect the point. Tax deduction at source, this is TDS. A lot of employees working would connect to it. On cash withdrawal for cooperative societies has been increased to 3 crores rupees. So basically, a lot of attempt to support, to push forward towards growth for the cooperative sectors. So this is something which you should remember. Startups के लिए भी किया है भाई. So startups के लिए the date of startup to receive income tax benefit has been extended to 31st March 2024. Not a very important point to remember, but still the carry forward of losses to startups have been increased from 7 years of incorporation to 10 years. So this is something which is important, that the carry forward of the losses. So because of the COVID, now remember it like this, because of the COVID, the MSME sectors, the startups have, they bore a lot of losses. So in order to give them certain ease, these things have been done. So remember, the losses of startups have been increased. Carry forward of losses have been increased from 7 years to 10 years. Then the point on online gaming, there's nothing very important there, but there's a lot of news on online gaming. So the regulations and everything related to it. So taxability on online gaming will be clarified with TDS and taxability on net winnings at the time of withdrawal or at the end of the financial year. This is an interesting point because when you play online games. So here it is on net winnings. मतलब एक गेम खेल के जीत गए उससे नहीं, the net winning of the total winning. Okay, so उस पे they have done certain taxability. This is important to understand. This issue is there. There's probably there's an act related to it, and there are a lot of articles written on online gaming and the regulation these days. So you can expect a question on this particular topic. So gold or Sona. So what is there for gold in this budget? Conversion of gold into electronic gold received and vice versa will not be treated as capital gains. Please underline this. Will not be treated as capital gains. Remember in the MCQ we said that it is going to be treated as capital gains. You could have easily missed this word, and that is what we don't expect from you. So it is not going to be treated as capital gains. What? The gold which is converted to electronic gold, or the vice versa, the electronic gold is converted to gold. Then there is certain exemption from income tax. Income of authorities, boards and commissions set up by union or state for housing, town, village development and regulation will be exempted from income tax. So these will be not given, they don't have to pay income tax. Another important point, Agniveer fund. Agniveer Agniveer scheme has been in a lot of news. Keeping the controversy part aside, because that is not very relevant for your UPSC, but the fund is important because it's mentioned in the budget. So Agniveer fund has been given exempt or EEE status, that is exempt status. What is EEE status? Okay, it's an interesting way to write it like this. So maybe it has a gravity, it has some real meaning to it. Can you tell me what does exempt status mean? Maybe you can write in your comment box, engage with me and help me also to engage with you in this process. So exempt status to Agniveer fund. Payments received by Agniveers enrolled in Agnipath scheme 2022 will be exempted from taxes. So these are certain exemptions. So there can be a direct question on exemption. Deduction in total income will be allowed for contribution to the Agniveer Seva Nidhi account for Agniveer or the central government. So my point of caution to you here is that you have to see that where is the exemption given. Okay, so it has been given in the authorities, boards and commissions set up by union state related to housing, towns and development, and also Agniveer. So wherever these two things are coming, exemption is given for income tax. Then custom duties, something which will again bring us back to the question which we have talked about, the MCQ, because it's going to talk about cigarettes. So the number of basic custom duty rates for goods and other than textiles and agriculture has been decreased. This is something like this is decreasing. A lot of things in the budget have increased for the good, but here it is decreased from 13 to 21. Oh, sorry, decreased to 13 from 21. So earlier it was 21 and now 13. So this you have to mention. And remember, other than textile and agriculture, so all other things there have been decreased. And then this point, a national calamity contingent duty, that is NCCD, on specified cigarettes revised upward by about 16%. To the best of my knowledge, महंगी हो रही है. So you have to comment in the box whether it's getting costlier or not. And also, we look into this NCCD. Then increased duties. What have been increased? Articles made from gold and platinum. Increase. Import duties on silver door, bars and articles. All these things have now increased duties. Again, there is some exceptions from duties. So these are indirect taxes. Compressed biogas contained in blended compressed natural gas. So there is an exemption from duties here. Testing agencies that import vehicle, automobile parts, components, subsystems and tires for testing or certification purpose. So अगर आप पहला point देखें, that is more related to environmental kind of conservation, and the second point is related to the certification of various vehicles and the vehicle parts. Okay. Then the deadline for the custom duties on specified machinery for lithium ion cell, again something which was too much in news. Lithium ion cell manufacturing of EV batteries has been extended to 31st March 2024. Please correct me if I'm wrong. There has been a question on lithium ion cell in the UPSC, or if it's not, do learn this or to revisit what is a lithium ion cell, where it is used. So what you have to know that where it is used, why it is important. So all these things you should know. Then of course, denatured ethyl alcohol used in the chemical industry. So ये सारी exemption from duties हैं इन सारी चीजों पर. Okay, so these are certain things like exemption from taxes हमने देखा, वैसे ही exemption from duties है. Okay, then there have been certain legislative changes in custom laws. For example, the Custom Act of 1962 is going to be revised to set a 9-month deadline for Settlement Commission to make a final decision after an application has been filed. So if you just remember this act, then you would know that you were able to do your prelims question fast. And then there is a change in the Custom Traffic Act, will be revised to make the purpose and scope of anti-dumping duty, again a very important term from the perspective of economy, and safeguard measures clearer. So there have to be certain legislative changes to make the economy a little easier, and the business, the trade very easier. Then you have change in the Central Goods and Service Tax Act. So this is important again. Something related to GST is always important. The minimum amount of tax for starting a prosecution under GST will be raised from 1 crore to 2 crore. Please note the amount. This can be important because it is related to GST. GST is always in news, very important. And by the way, you can be a GST commissioner if you get selected into UPSC. Okay, so you should know about it. The compounding amount for tax will be reduced from 50 to 150% to 25 to 100% of the tax amount. Maybe this is not a very important part, but definitely the prosecution question has been an important aspect which you should look into. So finally this MCQ, and now I'm sure you'll be able to answer it. Some of you must have answered it in the dialog box or the comment box. So with reference to the union budget, consider the following statement. 3 statements. Pehla kya tha? The rebate limit in the new tax regime has increased to rupees 5 lakh. No. To all aware citizens who take their finances very seriously, they would know it's not 5 lakh, it is 7 lakh. National calamity condition duty on specified cigarettes revised upwards by about 16%. So this is what we were stressing about. I thought maybe a very popular category to include in the MCQ will help you in understanding the topic also better. That's why I included this part. And then the third is conversion of gold into electronic gold receipt and vice versa will be treated as capital gains. No, it will not be treated as capital gains. That is what we have learned from the previous slides. So this is how you can, revise and learn and make your learning, reading more productive by immediately doing the MCQs. And the correct answer here is B, that is only 2 is correct. Okay, rest 2 are wrong. So there are various ways you can revise the current affairs, some initiatives by Indian Express to UPSC Key, UPSC Essentials, weekly quiz. By the way, we are also coming up with this budget simplified articles under UPSC Essentials, which would include a lot of content from these videos and more as per your demand, will be simplified, will be more exam oriented. So do read them, and that's all for today. That's all, in fact, for the budget series. We will definitely come up with a weekly quiz next time. Stay tuned. As I say, think smart, work hard, conquer your goal, and subscribe and like the YouTube channel of the Indian Express. Thank you.